Hello, everyone. In this lecture, we move into the cultural portion of the course by examining LGBTQ plus representation in film and screen media. Chapter 10 explores how cinema and visual media have represented gender and sexual diversity, and how audiences interpret and critique those representations. Film and media play an important role in shaping public understanding of social groups. For marginalized communities, representation on screen can influence visibility, identity formation, and social acceptance. At the same time, media representations are shaped by political, legal, and cultural constraints that affect what stories can be told and how they are presented. The chapter begins by asking an important question: what makes a film or piece of media queer? LGBTQ plus media does not always include openly identified LGBTQ plus characters. Some films contain coded themes, aesthetic styles, or narrative relationships that audiences interpret as queer even when explicit representation is absent. As scholars note, the boundaries of what counts as LGBTQ plus media are often fluid and open to interpretation. Because of this ambiguity, the chapter emphasizes that queerness can emerge through both production and reception. Filmmakers, actors, and writers may intentionally include queer themes, but audiences also actively create meaning through interpretation. Queer readings of film therefore depend not only on what appears on screen, but also on how viewers understand and engage with media texts. The history of LGBTQ plus film is closely connected to censorship. Throughout much of the 20th century, legal and industry restrictions limited the portrayal of non normative gender and sexuality. Film censorship policies discouraged or prohibited explicit depictions of homosexuality and gender diversity. As a result, filmmakers often relied on indirect representation, symbolism, or coded characters to communicate queer themes. Despite these restrictions, LGBTQ plus representation persisted from the earliest days of cinema. Queer identities appeared through stereotypes, subtext, humor, villainous characters, or exaggerated performances. These portrayals reflected broader social attitudes while simultaneously allowing audiences to recognize forms of gender and sexual difference. The chapter explains that analyzing LGBTQ plus media requires critical viewing practices. Rather than simply identifying whether representation exists, viewers are encouraged to examine how representation functions. Questions of power, authorship, audience interpretation, and historical context become central to understanding media portrayals. Critique, as discussed in the chapter, does not mean rejecting films entirely. Instead, critique involves recognizing how media texts reflect the social and political conditions in which they were produced. Even flawed or stereotypical representations can provide insight into cultural anxieties, norms, and struggles surrounding gender and sexuality. The chapter also situates LGBTQ plus media within broader systems of inequality. Representations of sexuality intersect with race, class, gender, and other social structures. Access to media production and visibility has historically been uneven, shaping which LGBTQ plus stories reach mainstream audiences and which remain marginalized. Technological change represents another major theme. Developments such as independent filmmaking, digital production, online streaming, and mobile viewing platforms have expanded opportunities for LGBTQ plus creators and audiences. Contemporary media environments allow individuals to produce and distribute their own stories outside traditional gatekeeping institutions. These technological shifts have contributed to increased diversity in LGBTQ plus storytelling, including independent films, web series, and community-based media projects. At the same time, debates continue regarding authenticity, commercialization, and representation within mainstream entertainment industries. Ultimately, Chapter 10 demonstrates that film and media are not passive reflections of society. They actively participate in constructing ideas about gender, sexuality, and identity. Studying LGBTQ plus screen media helps viewers understand how cultural narratives are produced, contested, and transformed over time. As we continue through the cultural section of this course, This chapter encourages us to approach media critically, recognizing both the possibilities and limitations of representation. By examining how queerness appears on screen, we gain insight into broader social conversations about visibility, power, and cultural change.